Well, we live in a culture that is very self-centered, very egocentric, and even narcissistic at times. We don't like pain. We don't like to suffer. And I don't think anybody really does like to suffer or likes pain, but sometimes we have pain in our life. Sometimes we have suffering for a reason. And the reason is so that we might draw closer to Jesus, so that we might draw into God and pull more of His strength and rely on Him more than we have in the past. We have a tendency to rely on ourselves and things go good. And we just keep relying on ourselves even when things go bad, and we don't have a fix for it. And there's a reason why, and it's here in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among you, which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. But to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing, so that also at the revelation of His glory you may rejoice with exultation. Then he goes on to say this: if you are reviled for the name of Christ, in other words, if you're reviled because you bear Christ's name, you're a Christian, he says, you are blessed. That doesn't really sound right, but it is. Because the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. Now, it's very, very interesting here because he says, to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, keep on rejoicing. In other words, if you're suffering because of your faith, if you're suffering because God is testing you in some way, that's good. Keep rejoicing. Rejoice in that. Don't go, oh, I don't like this. Oh, this is bad. Oh, this is the end. Stop. Rejoice. Thank God that He's putting you through what He's putting you through. I learned this myself personally when I went through some very serious health problems. And we suffer in a lot of different ways. We don't just suffer because, somebody has beat us up or stabbed us with a knife or shot us with a gun or put us in prison unjustly. That's not all the suffering. We suffer financially sometimes, very much, because we make bad decisions sometimes about our money. We suffer in our health because we don't take care of our bodies right all the time. And again, sometimes we suffer in our health just because it's the way it is. We might have a genetic issue, or we might have an environmental issue that we're not even aware of, but we suffer in our health. And we have to rejoice in that suffering because God's doing something in us. We also suffer in our relationships, probably more than anything because we think we're always right. And sometimes we're not. And that causes a problem in relationships. Or we want people to do what we want them to do as opposed to what maybe God has called them to do. Or opposed to what maybe they just don't want to do what you want them to do. And sometimes there's that friction, and we suffer in those relationships. We suffer in our health issues. We suffer in our finances. We may suffer even in the workplace and in our environments that we encounter each day of our lives. And it isn't easy. Rejoice. That's the key, because if we're willing to bear those sufferings as Christ did, we have the glory of God's presence upon us. And people will see that. If you just act like they act in the culture and in the society that we're part of, they're going to say, well, you're no different than me. You don't have anything I don't have. Just get over it. Suck it up. Come on now. We need to show Christ, and we do that by being willing to rejoice, by keeping a positive attitude and a position that reflects the love and glory of God. And when we do that, yeah, we may still suffer, but God knows our heart, and He will bring us into a place where we can know Him better, and we can experience His love, His grace, and His mercy in richer and in deeper ways.